And I have several animals. I have two in particular that are with me on the other side, very closely with me. And then I have a couple with me that reincarnated to be with me. This is really cool stuff, and it's cool stuff to know about because it's very heartening to know that there are possibilities to reconnect people and with the animals too. Sonny was a super cool horse. He started my competitive horse career. I could talk about him forever. A lot of cool stories about this horse. I just knew I was supposed to end up with him. I was just getting into competing, and the horse trainer kept wanting me to look at this other horse. And I just knew that horse was not mine. I felt badly for her because she felt really sad, and I knew she was talented, but I also knew she wasn't meant to be mine. And whether it's an animal or a particular crystal piece I'm looking at, just a little sidebar piece of information, I'm always real particular about, is that really meant to be mine? I don't ever want to take something that belongs to somebody else that's meant for them, that's going to help them. And that's just my personal intention and my recommendation for y'all out there, is to be mindful of those things, because you don't want somebody else to do something untoward or be mindless or greedy or whatever, and kind of hijack something that might be important for you. I tend to think things work out how they need to, but we have free will. And things can happen and things can intervene. So, back to the original story. I knew that horse was not meant to be mine. I was looking at this other horse. But I knew the trainer thought I should have been looking at the mare, not the gelding. But the second time I tried that horse out, I could feel the horse trainer looking at me from across the arena. And out of the corner of my eye, I thought, he's pretty intuitive, and he gets it. He gets it. He knows this horse and I are supposed to be together. And this horse ended up being incredible for me. And this is making me emotional again. He was such a he's still with me. He's here with me right this minute, actually. Very cool horse. Like I said, man, I could go on forever about this horse and tell great stories. I actually even have a blog post on my site, if any of y'all want to go look that up, where I talked about him, and it's just a short little post that about this particular topic that we're talking about, how the love connections stay there. If anybody wants to go look that up, and it's a old picture of he and I at our first show together, where largely because of him, we kicked butt and won 2 buckles and got a check that night. So the story that I was going to get to, and I may choke up telling this story, but it might end up being really helpful, different parts of it for some of y'all. So obviously I love this horse. I owe a lot to him. He started my competitive career, and wow, I mean, we had a lot of successes, and he made me earn things with him, but once he realized I was going to step up and really go for it with him, he was like, okay, I'll carry you through. And I mean, that horse probably would have broken his legs for me trying to get his job done. Not that I'd ever want that, but I talked about some of the stories in that blog post if y'all want to go read that. Super cool. And so, fast forward some years, I had to retire him at some point for physical issues. And then there was a point where something happened. And despite thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and heroic efforts by a really great equine vet down the road, it just didn't look like it was going to have a positive outcome. And the vet was very distraught over it and hated it. I think he would have anyway, but he knew how much it was killing me. So, but Sonny stayed real bright and strong, and the vet kept saying, I don't understand. He said most horses, their demeanor, their physical state would have deteriorated by now, and it's unusual. And I think there's different reasons why Sonny stayed looking so great, even toward the very end. But he finally did kind of turn that corner. So the vet and I both knew, okay, he's turned that corner. He's ready. We all hate this. But we're going to need to put him down and end the suffering. Now I'm getting emotional. It's always a hard decision to make, no matter how, I think, elevated you are spiritually. Just to be human, it's a tough decision to make. And I talked to a lot of clients dealing with this, going into it, during, and after. So we made the decision, and at this point, Sonny was staying at the vet's, and luckily it was not too far down the road. And so I was visiting him, and we set the date, made all the arrangements. I was going to have him cremated, etc. And in my mind, everybody understood I wanted to be there when this happened. And it's a very hard thing to do. A lot of people can't do it. A lot of people won't do it. A lot of people think they can't do it. But for me, there was no way I was going to let this happen without him knowing I was there. I'm really getting emotional now. I just was not going to let it happen without me being there with him and for him. And him seeing me, knowing it. It didn't matter. In my mind, it didn't matter how hard it was on me. That wasn't the point. The point was, he was my partner. I loved him. I owed him a lot. I just absolutely was not going to be there. So, in my mind, I thought everybody understood. I was not in a great state of mind. This was really hard for me. So, the things that got jumbled up, probably due to me and not the vet office. And that things just happen sometimes, despite our best efforts. So, the day came. I was doing everything I could to be in a great space. And I knew what time I was going to go down there, and he had said he was going to do it, right after lunch. And so I was just doing whatever I felt like I needed to do, meditate, etc. And I was just preparing. I wanted to be in as good a space as possible when I drove down there. I started getting like a funny feeling intuitively, and getting messages of like, look, you need to leave now, you need to leave now, you need to leave right now. And luckily it was literally, just right down the road, not very far. So I hopped in the truck, ran down there. I'm still not catching on that anything out of whack is happening. Pull up, go to his stall. He's not in the stall. And my heart sank. And I started getting a really bad feeling. But I could literally see his hoof prints in the dirt where they let him out. And so I was literally looking down, following the hoof prints, around the office building and to the edge of some trees and some land. And as I came around the corner, I looked up and I saw Sonny, my horse, the vet standing there holding him, and the vet tech. And I realized, oh my gosh, there's obviously been some horrific mix-up here. And they didn't understand I was supposed to be here for this. And oh my gosh, and as soon as I came around the corner and saw that, it was just this horrific feeling. And I immediately called out. I was calling out to them, but I was also calling out to Sonny. I wanted him to know I was there. And I was saying, no, stop. And of course they turned around and looked, and they were horrified, because that's not what they wanted. They didn't want this to not go right for me. And as soon as Sonny heard my voice and knew I was there, he went down. So they had already dosed him. But at least he knew I was there. So I ran up, and he was laying there and hadn't quite completely left his body yet, but anyway, I sat there with him. He knew I was there, and the vet was mortified and apologizing, but also gave me space and let me have my experience of this with this incredible animal that I loved. Later they told me, the vet said he had already dosed him. He didn't know I was supposed to be there. Somehow we had not communicated that well between us. That he had already dosed the horse. And Sonny wouldn't go down. Like, he gave him a full dose, and Sonny would not go down. And the vet was really hating doing this. So he was frustrated and was just kind of white-knuckling through it himself and wanted to get it over with. And the vet tech told me later that she was telling the vet he's waiting for her. He's waiting for Sue Ann. He's not going to go until she's here. And the vet was frustrated and sent the vet tech to go get a second full dose. And interestingly, she says, in a hurry and being upset, whatever, she literally dropped and broke, the bottom. And then had to get another one. So I think if y'all haven't already figured this out, all of this was starting to go on. This was going on when I started all of a sudden getting that bad feeling and hearing, you have to go now, you have to go now, you have to go now. So, sidebar, intuition matters, y'all. If I haven't impressed that upon y'all enough, we all have it to some degree. You can develop it. You can really use it to help yourself. So all of that was going on, and that's why I had to hurry up and jump in the truck and go down there. Plus, Sonny was probably connecting with me too, right? So, wanting me to be there, knowing that I wanted to be there for him. So, yeah, that vet told me later, he said he's only had that happen one other time when a horse just flat wouldn't go down with one dose. And he said it was a similar thing, that the horse and the person were just really connected. So I think for me, part of the takeaway here is Sonny could have given it up and just gone down with the first dose or taken himself out another way. But I think, and this is indicative of his personality and character, he just was tough enough and was like, no, I'm not going to go until I see her, she sees me, and we get to do this together. Because that's the way we planned it. And that's the way we both want it to be. Now, people who can say animals don't have a soul and they don't have personalities, I don't know how you can hear that story and think that. But that's just my thought on that. I mean, I think these things matter. The bond and the love was just there. So I sat in the dirt with this horse after he'd already left his body, bawled and squalled like a baby for 2 hours. Honest to Pete, and I'm not making this up, and it freaked the vet out. I realized he had left his body. His spirit had left. But I was standing there, and before the vet left to give me some alone time with Sonny, we were talking a few moments. And he was apologizing yet again. And I looked down at Sonny, and honest to Pete, I saw his eyelids blink. And I know, technically it's not possible. He was long gone. I had even felt that his spirit had left. But what I got out of that moment was, holy smokes, it's like his spirit came back in for a moment. And he was there. He was around. I think he wanted me to know, hey, I may have left a body behind, but I'm still around. And there may be other messages in there too. But that's I saw it. I didn't make it up. His eyelid blinked, and it was like he was there. I saw life in his eyes for just a nanosecond, and I knew it. So I ended up sitting there, as I said, a couple hours on my own with Sonny's, body. Allowing myself the experience of, to just mourn and, go through this, because it just wasn't easy, and I just knew it wasn't going to be. But I felt him around. And for about 45 minutes maybe of that, 2 hours, there was a red-tailed hawk that kept circling overhead. Now there's lots of red-tailed hawks here. They do circle around. I personally have not experienced one circling around over me for that length of time, but it circled around and it called out, and I knew that had to do with Sonny and him still very much being around and wanting me to know it and being connected. And I did get some messages and sense of him passing on and kind of floating up, if you will, and processing. And it was a really hard experience, but it was a very interesting experience. At one point in this whole thing, for a few days, for me, was pretty intense. At one point, he reconnected with me, and I really clearly got some messages from him. And part of what came up was, I was still there at the vet clinic, and he was passing over. He was looking back and doing a bit of a life review, sort of. And he communicated to me, oh my gosh, I had no idea how much, the full extent, how much you loved me. And all the effort you put out for me. And he expressed some regret of not being present with that. And in life, he was a bit of a curmudgeon and not just a super lovey-dovey horse. He was super cool. I could tell you stories for days about this horse. just like y'all could probably tell me about your animals. But he had a bit of that curmudgeon kind of holding back thing, like some people can have. And he was he was looking back and expressing his real regret of how he kind of missed the boat on that, of, how much I cared for him and all the extra effort I went to for him. And it's not that he wasn't appreciative when he was here, but he had a perspective and was expressing and getting some understanding and expressing the regret of love withheld, affection withheld to some degree while he was here, and the extreme regret that he was starting to have as he was passing over and processing, looking back, and the realization of that. And, that's just probably a good lesson for all of us. When this horse passed over, this was a real, very distinct experience for me, and really drove the point home. Really drove it home for me of how real deal love, those connections never die. It just doesn't. It's there. And luckily, it doesn't always work out this way. I want y'all to know. Sometimes we have to be really patient. Like I had to be really patient for my Nana grandmother to come through for me, and then also, again, to really be around me a lot. But in this particular instance with Sonny, I got the gift of him coming through to me and talking to me, communicating with me from the other side really, 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 really quickly. And that was a huge gift for me, huge, beyond words gift, and made a massive difference in how quickly I could deal with this, as you can imagine. And knowing that it doesn't always work out that clearly, that quickly, I treasure that experience even more. So, that is one of the big stories that I think can really give you a lot to chew on. I have another horse that is named Tommy, and at a time when I was not looking to write another check for yet another horse. Those of y'all who are horse people, y'all understand how this goes. It's kind of, it's like a big black hole your money just goes into, but we do it because we love it. My horse trainer called and said, hey, got some new clients with some additional horses in the barn. They need to sell some. I've got one I think you need to come look at. So I did. Showed up that day, walked into the pen to work this horse, try him out. And there's multiple people in the pen, trainers, some other people, multiple horses tied along the fence line. I didn't even know which one he was. I walked into the pen and on foot, and everybody else is horseback. My trainer starts calling out to me saying, oh, hey, hello, blah, blah, blah. And he's pointing the horse out to me for me to go get him and get on him. Now, I'm probably a good 50 or 60 feet away from this horse. And I haven't even focused, homed in on him and looked at him. And he was tied where his butt was toward me, and I really couldn't even see his head. He was facing the other direction. And it was kind of a windy day, and it was kind of hard to hear things. But I'm telling y'all, this horse I don't even know how he did it, but as soon as he could hear my voice, and I'm not even sure how he could hear it that well with all the wind, and I was downwind from him and facing the other direction. I don't know how he did it with the way he was tied up, but that horse literally managed to fold himself in half so he could crane his head around to look at me as soon as he started really hearing my voice. And again, I'm a good 50, maybe even 60 feet away. I can't even see him that well, to be honest. But he heard my voice, and he craned around and looked right at me and kept looking right at me, and that immediately got my attention. With everything else going on and other people talking and other noises and people working horses and cattle in the middle of the pen, that horse homed in on me and my voice and kept staring at me. And I thought, whoa, okay, I'm not sure what all that means in this moment, but that really got my attention. So I get the horse, get on him, I'm working him, and I hadn't been on him probably 5 minutes, and I thought, oh, shoot, I'm about to write a check and get another horse. He was just a cool horse with a lot of talent. He was just really fun to work a cow on, but I still didn't know the other part of the story yet. But it was really piquing my interest, and I wanted to see where this was going to go. So I ended up getting the horse, bring him home, and I noticed one day he got a lot more freedom at my place with me. He went in the stall at night, but he was out during the day with the other horse. And I started noticing when he'd come running up at night, when I'd come out to feed him supper, and they knew I was out, and they'd come running in from the pasture to come see me. He just had a way of moving and looking that he started kind of reminding me of a wild Mustang. Even though he's a really highly bred quarter horse. But it stuck out, and I thought, okay, that's a little intuitive thing, but I still didn't get the rest of the story and was just enjoying having him. Fast forward a bit. There's a point where he's just really unhappy. And he's just visibly unhappy. You can see it in his face and his demeanor, and I knew he was unhappy. I knew there was something going on. And it was a bit of an ongoing thing, and I thought, wow, I'm not sure yet what's going on here. So I was paying attention and communicating with him and saying, obviously asking him, hey, what's wrong? Talk to me. And he started telling me things, and he was upset because I didn't quite realize who he was. And part of that was he didn't quite understand who he was, say, like at a soul level. Now, at this point, this horse had some injuries and some kind of funky, weird, out of left field stuff happen, and multiple things happen. And rather than go through heroic efforts and ask this horse to do some things I didn't think he should have to do, he was retired from competition. This competition can be the super athletes. It can be really hard on their bodies, and I just didn't think it was fair. Enough things were going on and had happened, and I didn't just want to strap him up and drug him and stitch him up and put. I just wanted him to have a good life, and not, I would like to have shown him more, but that's just the way it goes in the horse business. I didn't get to show him very much at all, to be honest. And he was really super cool. And we could have had a ton of fun and won some money. But it was more important that he was not run into the ground. So he was retired. Not sure he was real happy about that. So what was coming up in the conversation with him at that particular moment in time was, you know, he was frustrated that he wasn't showing and competing because for him, part of that was, hey, I'm really good at this. This is my job, and I'm not getting to go do it. And I'm not getting to go show who I am in the show pen. And he was going on and on about that. And I was telling him, I'm just so sorry. I'd rather be showing you too. And I'm almost in tears at this point because I said, look, I'd love to be showing you, but I'm not going to run you into the ground physically. I mean, this just isn't right. And, you know, I'm not sure what else to do for you. It pains me too, but this is where we're at. And this was after thousands and thousands of dollars and MRIs and all kinds of stuff and multiple things going on. Some run-of-the-mill things and then some other kind of nutty stuff that was really unusual. I said, I don't want you to be in pain. I don't want you to be hurt more, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then he was talking more about, yeah, but I have the heart of a warrior. And people are not getting to see that. And this started going into a story of, oh my gosh, I started realizing, and I started flashing on, I've been with this horse in another lifetime. Another life for him, another life for me. And I was Native American, Plains Indians. And he was my Indian pony. Okay, now I'm getting choked up again. And I was male, and we went into battle together. And apparently we were very close that lifetime. He was my trusty partner. And that horse literally took arrows for me in battle and saved my life that lifetime. Well, now I'm getting really choked up again. So there's a couple of things here. This is part of him saying, but I have the heart of a warrior. And we all want to be, you know, have a certain desire, I think, for wanting to be who we authentically are and to be respected for that. And so he was struggling for that. He was struggling over that. I hated it for him. But it also brought up this whole thing of we've had this past life connection. And then it all makes sense now. He heard my voice, and on some level, he was picking up on, you know, my soul, our connection, that very first day. And for whatever reason, there was a timing to it for me. It's not that I couldn't have gotten the information that day. Intuitively, I'm a clear channel. I can get all kinds of information 24/7. We're just not always supposed to have it. And sometimes we're supposed to have it at a particular moment in time. So there was a timing to it for me. And there's always meaning in that. And, but he definitely picked up on it. I mean, things made sense looking back and how I'd picked up on that Mustang vibe. And, this was a bit of the punchline to the story, right? You know, so I immediately knew, hey, I love this horse. I didn't get to show him very much, but, you know, I'm going to take care of him and keep him. And it just feels like the right thing to do. But it had this whole other layer of understanding and importance to it now because I realized, wow, this horse took arrows for me. And he saved me. He did that for me willingly. This other lifetime. And this particular lifetime we're in now, I'm his person and I take care of him. And to me, that matters. I think we had a pact, if you will, you know, that I wasn't aware of. on the spiritual level that we were going to be together again. And he wanted to be with me again because he wanted to protect me. And this lifetime, the way that he does that, and I didn't realize it at first, but at some point, he started telling me when I'd go out to feed him in the morning that he had protected me that night from, he had a phrase for it, and it was some malevolent energies from somebody else. And from time to time he would tell me, I protected you while you were sleeping last night. So I don't ask it of him, but he volunteers and he does it. And again, to recognize and appreciate and express that appreciation and to be grateful for it and give thanks. These things are important. So, with this horse, to know this, I have the heart of a warrior thing is really important. And as soon as he knew that I had heard him and I understood, his demeanor completely changed, and he never got into that unhappy mode again. And I've had him a number of years now. And from time to time, I pet him and say, you have the heart of a warrior, and I know it. And thank you. Thank you for back then, and thank you for now. And it has an impact on him. You can see it. And if I maybe have gone too long without connecting with that with him, and I say it, I can really see the impact on him. Yeah. And we could apply that to people too, right? Seeing people for who they are and their purpose for us, and graciously accepting that and recognizing it and appreciating it. Yeah. So some other ways this can happen, moving on a little bit, just so y'all know, is we can have an animal in our current lifetime that can come back to us in that same lifetime. And I have a cat and a horse where I've been lucky enough to experience that. The cat came back pretty quickly to me in the physical, within about a year and a half. And I got to spend a whole lot of time with him before he passed over. He wasn't well. And I knew it wasn't going to end well, and I just dropped a whole lot of things. I moved hair appointments and did my taxes late and, all kinds of things. Extended my taxes and filed an extension, did things so I could spend a few weeks with this cat, my barn cat, and that's just the way it was. And he knew, that I was spending all this time with him, and I let him do things his own way. And he was very clear about how I will always be with you. I will always watch over you. And I knew that. And in the meantime, while he was in spirit, I would catch images of him out of the corner of my eye. So that might happen for you. Sometimes I would kind of do a double take because I'd get a bit of an image of him, sitting there at the edge of the grass at the barn while I was out there doing chores. And I knew he was there, or I'd get an image of him kind of walking by. And so he was around in spirit, and I knew it, and I appreciated that, and I recognized that. And I knew he was watching over me. And then about a year and a half later, out of the blue one evening, I'm at the barn, and this cat just comes up out of nowhere, out of the pasture, and is walking down this path and just meowing, talking away non-stop, and with dogs and horses around, he is just ignoring all of them and staring straight at me and just talking the whole time, non-stop, from pretty far away, as if, he had lived there all his life and knew me, and this was a normal thing. And there was different things this cat did where it was like he was my barn cat who had passed over a year and a half before. And so I pretty quickly figured out that was him. And he told me a lot of things and had some messages for me, said he'd been watching me. He's just a stray that's just come up. But anyway, he said he'd been watching me for a while, for a number of months, but there was a timing to it. So he'd been off in the pasture, maybe in the bushes around the house. I had seen cat tracks around, but, I live out in the country. There's strays out here and cats on neighboring places. I didn't realize it was him. Maybe part of that time. He said he'd been watching me, but there was a timing to it. And he was also telling me how he would come and go, which he has. Kind of breaks my heart a little bit, to be honest, but I just roll with it. I don't want to cage him up. I want him to be free, but I think there's a bigger picture here, and there's messages and meaning to when he's here. And the story's still pretty new and still kind of unraveling and presenting itself. So I don't know where all this goes, but there's meaning, messages, importance to when he's here and when he's not. And when he's here, he's just a super lover. I mean, like, I almost can't even walk around because he's right there on top of me. And he'll follow me back and forth while I'm doing chores and talk the whole time. And even though he's a male cat, he will, he just wants me to pick him up and love on him. And he kind of puts his front feet on either side of my neck, and he'll let me carry him all around and kind of hugs on me like a person almost. He's a really sweet, cool cat, and I miss him when he's not here. But I understand there's messages, and there's a whole lot more to this picture. It just hasn't been revealed yet, and it's still in the early stages. And the third horse I have at this time is the reincarnation of my most beloved and treasured horse as a kid growing up. That was my best friend growing up. That I got to have for, a handful of years. And for different reasons, they made me get rid of her. And I cried and 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 hated it. I just didn't have the power. I was a kid. I didn't have the power to, at the time, to have that come out differently. And, but I've never forgotten her. And honest to Pete, I think she was my best friend when I was a youngster, looking back. Spent a lot of hours on her, rode her bareback. Spent a lot of time with her by myself out on acres and acres, and she taught me a lot. And again, when she came back, this time, similar to some of the other experiences I've had, my trainer called and said, "Hey, you need to come look at these horses. We know the horse you have is not panning out like it should, and we want to kind of make a deal and trade and get you into the right horse and keep you going. And I've got these 3 young horses for you to come look at." And the bottom line is, out of the 3, I picked one, and I just couldn't not home in on her. And some of the other horses technically appeared to be a little more talented, maybe physically in a way, but I felt there was something about her spirit and her heart, and I just thought, no, it's supposed to be that one. And then I realized, my gosh, I think that's, my mare reincarnated, and I didn't want to be spending the money at the time, wasn't even sure I could gracefully swing it. But of course, as things are supposed to, they work out, and I found a graceful way to make things happen, and I got her. And yeah, so that's my mare that I have now. And she's a real sweetie, and we definitely have a connection. And even though I've had her a few years, there's still some things unraveling at a certain time and way and pace, even with her. Even though I'm super tuned in, there's still a time and a place and purpose to how things unfold and the information you get and when you get it. So, those of y'all out there who have loved ones on the other side that you miss, including animals, beloved animals on the other side, I hope there's pieces of information in here that you can glean for yourself that can bring hope and give you insight and some tangible things to run with in your life. And take this to another 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 levels for yourself. If you want help, professional help, tuning in or sorting out something maybe that's already happening around you, certainly my profession is to work with people. So anybody who wants that, you know where to find me. SueAnnTexas.com. This is obviously something I've experienced a lot for a few decades, and it's just a great thing to dive into and to be able to realize those heart connections and to really feel them and benefit from them. Certainly you need to do it while your people and your animals are here on this side. I mean, that's part of the point. Do what you can while someone's here. But also take heart in knowing that as things shift and morph, as they always will, sooner or later, that things don't necessarily end. They don't end. The connections are still there. I've been extremely blessed to have these experiences and to continue having experiences. We don't always get the people or the animals to as clearly reconnect, when we want to sometimes. Sometimes an animal, you might really want to come back to you. I mean, it's not a guarantee, right? The love connection's still there. You may be able to connect while they're on the other side. They may reincarnate and go to somebody else to fulfill an even bigger purpose there. And that makes a lot of people sad, but that's just the way it is sometimes. But if the bigger purpose needs to be served and you're that person that the bigger purpose needs to be served with, then you're the person that's getting that gift with that animal that time. And I think it's important to be gracious and understanding. And again, where I started at the beginning of all this is to know we really do get, hopefully let ourselves be aware of the fact that we get all we really need when we really need it, if we're open to it and are willing to see it and appreciate it for all that it is and enjoy it. And again, we have opportunity to heighten our awareness of that and to live all these benefits. And I know it's not the same. I don't get to actually hug my Nana, my grandfather, my other grandmother, who's now come back and around more. Not physically, but they're there when I go to sleep at night. And they are right there. I mean, right there. And if I'm going through something really intense, situation in my life, really intense energy shift that's physically affecting me, my grandparents are there holding my hand when I go to sleep at night. And to not appreciate and honor that would be to dismiss a stunningly heartfelt and valuable gift. So that's part of why I wanted to share this. Even those of y'all out there who think you're not real metaphysical, you probably have had experiences anyway, and hopefully this will open you up a little bit more in a good way. If you want to go down that path, always your choice. But I just think to me, this is part of the life magic, divine life magic, to build upon episode 1, which was, spirit is in the details of life. And to me, this is some of that life magic. And if you even just think you're experiencing a little bit of something, seeing some signs possibly, catching something out of the corner of your eye, maybe, there's probably something real deal going on. And as I said in the first episode, I always want to impress upon the importance, always your choice, but the importance of my recommendation of stick with pure love and pure light, highest good of all. To be sure you stay in a good spot with the energies, any spirits from the other side you might be connecting with or be drawing into you. You only want to draw in, again, my recommendation, the pure love and pure light, and with your thoughts, your intentions, your wishes, your actions, to be serving your own highest good and the highest good of all. Pure love and pure light, to stay right, highest good of all. To keep you in good experiences and a better path. So, wow, had no idea this was going to go this long today. I knew I had multiple stories to share, but I wanted to give y'all opportunity to hear all the different examples of, okay, one thing Spirit's reminding me of, I meant to touch on, but I don't think I mentioned. Another way, sometimes Spirit would communicate with me, is sometimes they'll move a candle flame around. And apparently they wanted me to mention this and wanted me to mention it at the very end. So somebody who makes it all the way to the very end of this podcast is meant to hear that. Again, as I said earlier, the signs, the ways to get your attention can work however it needs to. And it just needs to work the way it needs to work for you in the moment that it needs to work. I never judge how it works. It's just like, thank you. Thank you that it came through, and thank you I understood something that mattered for me or had an idea of a presence around me that was beneficial. So with candle flame, I've seen it do all kinds of crazy things. And people can pick that apart and say, yeah, there's a logical, physical reason for that. I just know I've had experiences where in the moment, I knew, and to me, it was very clear and very obvious. That candle flame did its weird little thing, whatever it was, whether it was jumping up or suddenly leaning over to the left or making a popping noise or just for no reason suddenly getting super, super, super tall, the flame, getting super tall and just crazy, like reaching way up tall. And it would happen when I would think a certain thing or ask the question of, oh, somebody's here, who's here? And it would only happen when I had that question or that thought. And point being, it did whatever it needed to do to get my attention. And it was clear to me I was getting confirmation at certain moments that somebody was there and it was helpful and this was my sign so that I could appreciate it, connect with it, and run with it and get the benefit that they were trying to get to me. We all have free will. We have choice. We don't have to participate in anything, any of these things. Spirit will not run over you, maul you, go against your will. You've got to be willing and open and in the frame of mind of asking for it and being open to it. They're not going to override your free will. So the candle thing can work a lot of different ways, but I've literally had them pop and make super loud noises and only at a particular moment and do it repeatedly to drive the point home that was the message, whatever the message was. So, okay, we crammed that little message in at the very end. I truly, 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 truly hope y'all enjoyed this. I hope it wasn't too long. You can certainly, fast forward and back up and hear a part you need to hear again or skip over something that you don't feel like you need to take the time for. Do whatever feels right for you at the moment. I appreciate y'all listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. More episodes coming. You can always go to my website, SueAnnTexas.com. I have a podcast page on the website where you can, it's sort of the central page. You can always keep up with what's going on with the podcast there. This originates on Podbean, but it's also available in other venues. Spotify, Google, Amazon, YouTube, my channel on YouTube. All right. Thank you. Blessings from Texas. Till next time.